Hello, everybody. Excuse this very bright room. Uh, this is airing just a little after I. Sorry, I just gotta. That's weird. Okay, looks like I'm in heaven or something. That's weird. All right, yeah, we'll go down about here. Um, so this is airing, or I'm making this just a little after I made the first one, because after watching it, I realized I should be a little more precise with some of these things. So this, in case you haven't realized now, has already this does feature spoilers. So this is the uh, hopefully more articulate, more solid Darth Malgus theory. So let's right off the bat start with uh, physical appearance. So on your right below me, we have a picture of Darth Malgus. This is when he's like 30-ish, 30, late 30s, early 40s perhaps. Um, and this is just after a grenade impact went off in his face. And then to my or to your left, you'll see the 3D model of Supreme Leader Snoke, and this is the face that appeared in the hologram, which appeared in the Force Awakens Episode 7 movie. So right off the bat, we can see that Snoke, I'm going to say that he's human. I don't know about you guys, but although he may be warped by the dark side or whatever physical injuries, I'm going to say that that's human. We see normal human, if not a little scarred, normal human ears. We see the nose, looks fine. You see a deformed kind of skull, but I mean, as would be the case with injury or long periods of some kind of trauma. So right off the bat, you're thinking, okay, so we have his age now. In the Plagueis theory, age is considered to be a strength for that, because the average lifespan of a Mund, which is what Plagueis is goes at the very least over 100 years, which would place him inside the prequel to Force Awakens age. But the problem with that is that Andy Serkis himself said that Snoke was, and this is my own paraphrasing, but Snoke is fucking old. Like, he's really stupid old. He's been around for a very long time, and the age between Malgus and Plagueis is still pretty substantial. And when Andy Serkis is explaining this, it seems like the age of Malgus to now, or Malgus to Force Awakens, would definitely qualify as stupid old, like literally thousands. Like, and I don't know right off the top of my head, but yeah, no, it's definitely thousands. I know that he was around in like the something thousand BBY. It's the Old Republic. So we have that. We have scarring, and the picture that you'll see over here. I'm just trying to coordinate myself with my own video. There is not a lot of scarring on the face, but in the movie, you can clearly see that when Snoke is leaning down from his hologram, you'll see that he has notable scars on like the left, right, left. Right side of his face, from his mouth down, he has something going on here. You'll see that on the image, on the far left image of Snoke. These are 2 revised models, I think. But that's generally exactly what he looked like. And you can already see the correlation between him and Malgus right down there. So some of the things that people have brought up was the size of the image in the hologram. Now, some people are taking that very literally, that's his actual size. But let's not forget that the manipulation of size is not a strange thing in terms of hologram use. If you recall, in Empire Strikes Back, Vader kneels down to talk to his master, Sidious, and Sidious has this giant broadcast of like his head, and that gets broadcasted, or not broadcast, what I'm talking about, it just gets projected, and that's a giant vision or image of his head. And now if people took that literally, that would mean that he's also very big and has a giant freaking head. The only reason why the original audience would have painted him as being average size was because it was very clear that that was a hologram. Whereas in this one, you only find out that that thing's a hologram after he leaves and the hologram disappears. Because for the first couple minute or so of him speaking and interacting with Kylo Ren, and I think it's the general as well, this thing's massive. And you're like, wow, that's real. And some people might not get past that first part. But we haven't seen very many giant, prominent characters. So logic could only assume that they're not going to start now. I think it's safe to say that he's probably normal size, if not very tall. And the reason why I say very tall is because the height does seem to come up in prominent discussion with the Darth Malgus Theory. And not a lot of it is based on a lot of fact. But if we're going to account for size for whatever reason, then it should be noted that now Amund is very tall, but Malgus was actually unnaturally tall himself, standing at 7 feet 2 inches. So that would already give him a pretty nice height. I'm not saying that's him in the hologram. I'm saying that that's a very exaggerated version. But if we're worried about height here for whatever reason, the size of Malgus at his prime, 7'2". So that's massive. Vader stood at 6'8". So 7'2" is already a giant. No one wants to screw with that. And some people might go off on the muscle mass of Snoke then. So if he's Malgus, then he would be big. But let's take... Actually, I'm gonna come back to that. I'll go there in just a second. How could he survive thousands of years if he is only human? Well, during the final days of his prominent Sith career, his emperor at the time had just been overthrown, and he took the opportunity because he had very different beliefs. Not very different, I'm going to say he had beliefs that did oppose the standard beliefs of Sith, and he decided that he was going to remake the Empire. So he proclaimed himself as the new emperor. And although the Empire he proclaimed was new and not quite solid, it still was very powerful in a very short span of time because of his willingness to adversify the concept of the Empire and have alien warriors, and such things. And when he was defeated, originally he was killed off, but there were still rumors about his survival. Now we find out since the release of the Knights of the Fallen Empire expansion in the Old Republic that he was not killed, he was captured or overthrown and put into a carbonite deep freeze. And now, as we know, that keeps you alive for however long you're frozen for. So he was frozen in carbonite and eventually was delivered to Emperor Valkorion. Now, from that storyline, we don't know what happened to Malgus. We do know that he is still alive, though, in that. And if his frozen carbonite state was unaltered, or lost, or just left there to sit there, or just to rot, he would still be alive. And because Disney now has range over the Old Republic game, there's definitely room to take that into the movies to not only expand the game, make it more popular, but also to add an even bigger surprise to The Force Awakens, so much so that I'm actually almost depressed that I came up with this, because if I'm right, then that sucks, because I'm going to spoil the whole thing. But at the same time, it's very cool because this guy's my favorite Sith, and now he's here, if this is the case. But I'm going to take a look at some of the similarities. So we have the human appearance. Very human, scarred, deformed. That can happen over time. His muscle mass would have lessened because of the carbonite, so he's still old. I would say his use of the dark side is probably keeping him alive further, but it was initially the carbonite, I'm pretty sure, which is why his muscle mass has gone down. I would still with the carbonite freezing thing, that would still accompany the old age. What else? It is said, and I don't know if this is quite true, that Snoke, or was it Kylo Ren, one of the two, uses light and dark side abilities. It is noted for sure that Malgus does prominently use dark side, but is known to use some light side abilities. Let's look at the voice. If you see the movie, you hear Snoke's voice. And if you have heard Malgus speak, I would say mostly in the Deceived cinematic trailer of the Old Republic, it is different, but I do definitely see some similarities, and I think with age, one's voice can definitely change. So that could be a likely progression. The similarity is something to be noted for sure. And the very fact that he claimed himself in the Old Republic to be the new emperor and to be changing things, and now that the empire that originated from the Sith has been wiped out, he now has the chance to relive, or not relive, but continue with his dream or his vision of doing that. Hence the First Order. So there's that. In his youth, Malgus was adverse to the Empire because of his experiences and his belief systems. You'll see that Snoke doesn't even mention the previous Empire because it's a figment to him now. There's no use for it. I could see how Malgus, if he had carried on, would think that as well. Let's make sure I got everything here. Okay. And just to make it a little stronger, I should emphasize that Malgus has not been declared dead yet. He does not have a decisive death. So that's one of the biggest things. next to the fact that both very human. I would think their beliefs are very similar. The physical ailments, attributes, and deformities, I think, could coincide. The carbonite freezing is a definite strength in that theory. But some people might say the mask is off, so that could hinder it. But at the same time, with enough time to sit there and meditate on the Force, and I think a lot of things can be overpowered, I guess. So he could have gained the ability to not use the mask for breathing. He could have stabled himself in that sense. It does say that although Malgus did have a respirator, he used mostly the Force to keep himself together. I mean, and above all that stuff, just look at these two pictures here. I don't know about you guys, but I can see how this could happen. And then lastly, let's take a look at this quote here at the very bottom. I don't know who Ivan Menzela is, but it's almost like Snoke was quite handsome when he was younger, and in my mind, the more powerful he's become, the more the dark side consumes him. He made his eyes really pale blues, so the whites of his eyes were almost the same color as his skin, and costume piercing. Okay, but it was almost like he was quite handsome when he was younger. That the 30-year-old picture of him right there doesn't do that justice. But if you see the first cinematic trailer, I think it's Return, where Malgus first faces Satele Shan with her master, you'll see that how that could come into play as well. And of course it's just a speculation, but it does make sense, I think. So I think I covered everything. This will be the last video I make on this subject, but hopefully it's a little more articulate, explains a little more. Really racking my brain here before I close this off. No, I think that's it. Cool, great. And thanks for the support so far on the video, on the last one. Within a couple hours, it's already climbing pretty well, considering my viewpoint average. So, thank you very much, and stay tuned for whatever else comes up on this channel.